Every church has explained the creation of Eve in the same basic way. God took a rib from Adam and formed the woman. End of story. Next topic. But if you go straight to the original Hebrew, there's a word there that practically no one stops to really examine, and it completely changes the weight of this story. Wait, does just one word make that much of a difference? Let me show you. First, the context. In Genesis 2:18, even before Eve existed, God makes a statement that is, in itself, quite unusual within the creation narrative. It is not good for the man to be alone. I will make a helper suitable for him. Notice that, up to this point in the account, everything God had created, he classified as good or very good. This is the first time a not good appears in the entire story. Something is incomplete, and God himself recognizes this before any human realizes it. And here comes the word that almost no one examines. Helper, in Hebrew, ezer. Culturally, we hear helper and automatically imagine an inferior position, like an assistant, someone who helps in the background. But ezer doesn't carry that weight in the original Hebrew. In fact, this same word is used in other passages of the Bible to describe God himself helping Israel. Psalm 121:2 says, "My help comes from the Lord," using precisely ezer, God being ezer for his people. This is not a position of inferiority, it is a position of strength, of rescue, of active help. Notice this, the word that describes Eve is the same one that describes God helping an entire people. So why did the helper translation take on this weaker tone over the centuries? Probably because of the cultural context of the older translations, which carried the social expectations of the translator's own time, more than the actual weight of the original word. This is not rewriting the Bible. It's looking more carefully at what the Hebrew text truly conveys. And there's another interesting technical detail right after, about the creation process itself. The text says that God caused Adam to fall into a deep sleep, in Hebrew, tardema, the same word used later when God puts Abraham into this same type of sleep before establishing a covenant with him, Genesis 15:12. It's not just any nap, it's a state described, in other instances in the Bible, as associated with moments of divine revelation or solemn covenant. In other words, the creation of Eve doesn't happen in a secondary and hurried detail of the narrative. It happens within an almost ceremonial context, comparable to a pact being sealed. Regarding the rib itself, a pause is also warranted. The Hebrew word used, selah, appears dozens of times in the Old Testament, but in the vast majority of other occurrences, it does not mean rib in the isolated anatomical sense. It is used, for example, to describe the side of the tabernacle, Exodus 26:20, an entire structure, not an isolated bone. This has led some scholars to suggest that the text may be describing God taking an entire side of Adam, not literally cutting off a small bone, but forming Eve from a substantial part of his own being, almost as if he had originally been a single being that God later divides in two. It is worth noting, this is a reading debated among Hebraists, not a closed consensus. The traditional translation rib remains widely accepted as well. But the debate itself already shows that the text is richer than the abridged version we've heard since childhood. And when Adam finally sees Eve, the recorded reaction is literally the first poem in human history. "This is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh." Genesis 2:23. It's not a phrase of possession or hierarchy. It's a phrase of recognition, almost of relief, like finally finding something that was missing, something that was of the same essence as him all along. Putting it all together, a word, ezer, that actually describes strength and help, not subordinate weakness. A sleep, tardema, associated, in other passages, with moments of solemn covenant with God. And a physical origin, selah, that perhaps suggests a deeper unity between the two than just a hastily removed bone. The picture that emerges when you put these pieces together is quite different from the simplified image of second-rate helper that many people carry without realizing it, sometimes reinforced even within the church itself, unintentionally, simply by repeating a translation that has lost nuance over the centuries. Of course, one final caveat is in order. This is not a radical revision of creation theology. The main elements of the story remain the same. It is more a matter of reclaiming the true weight of certain words that, through simplified translations over the centuries, have ended up carrying a connotation that perhaps was never present in the original text. So here's the question for you. Had you heard this explanation of the word ezer before, or is this the first time? Comment below with your opinion. I really want to know, and I'll see you in the next video.